Friday the 13th show, so let's talk about who might take a step back, some bad things in a world of ultimate positivity right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster brand, it's holiday season, drop Jrue in the mix. And 3 from KP, no we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Juice, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in locked on after. Karalis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D. White on the breakdown. John on the mic, documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's, how we started, raising business, how we finish. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. We're back to every day, Monday through Friday, so no more breaks now, and podcasts on game days when the Celtics do play on weekends. It's time for me to start saying that because they start playing again in a few weeks, and you're going to want to subscribe to this podcast, watch the show on YouTube, get into the comments there, let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the show, I'm John Karalis. I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years now. I'm doing it for Boston Sports Journal at the moment, and I have also written a couple of books, including Built Different. You can buy this now on my website, johnkaralis.com. Go to the store. You can buy this book. You can buy my other book. You can even buy a signed label that you can put in the book. If you've already bought it, I'll, for $15, I will personalize a nice label you can stick into the book for you. Just let me know what you want to say, and I will say it, sign my name, and send it off to you. So go ahead and do that. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Every customer now through September 22nd, just bet $5. You get 3 weeks free of Sunday ticket, NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started on that free trial. Today, it's been so positive around here. It's Friday the 13th. This is like the spooky, scary time. We're in the fall. We're almost at Halloween. We're a month away. Halloween's everywhere. So we're taking it to a scary place. And I thought, who's scary enough to do this show with me? It's Tom Westerholm.
It's me.
Tom?
Dressed in black.
It's you.
It's me.
Yeah.
In a former life, I was part of a podcast that was often accused of being too negative about the Celtics.
Yeah.
To the point that one of our last Apple podcast reviews is somebody complaining about the fact that the Celtics got good and we stopped podcasting, which is very funny. In my defense, that Celtics team was unbelievably annoying, and we were right about everything. Anyway, I've been very positive about the Celtics for more than a year. So, yeah, and I was right.
What's
about
not to be positive about?
That's right.
Yes, it feels like there's plenty to be positive about, man. Look, what's not to be positive about?
Except being positive.
Yeah, man. Like it's been great.
Yeah.
But hey, it doesn't always work out the way you want. It doesn't always go straight up rockets to the moon. There is the potential for every season. Like, why would we expect in the grand scheme of things for everything to go exactly like it did last year? Why would we expect everything to either the good stuff? And this is a natural thing, right? This is the natural way that people think. The good stuff is just going to last and the bad stuff will get better. And it's entirely possible that that's exactly how the season will go. They'll win another championship, and hey, great. And we all hope that's how it goes. More likely is that some things might take a little step back. And that even if something does, even if a player or two has a regression, none of this means that, oh my God, all of these things can derail their championship hopes, right? So that's not what we're saying either. But what I think we are ready to say is there's some players that we got to watch and be like, they might not be what they were last year or what they've been. And we just have to prepare ourselves for that because that could be a sticking point for the Celtics. It could be one of the things that when Joe Mazzulla says, I hope it's 10 times harder, this could be one of the things that makes it 10 times harder.
Correct.
So
yes.
Do you want to start with a candidate for regression? Do you want to do it or should I?
I could start because I've got a quick one that I think it's not necessarily a candidate for regression, but it's more a guy that I got my eye on. I'm curious about this guy, and Celtics fans might not love it. I'm curious about Jayson Tatum this year, right? And it's not because
Oh,
no,
okay.
listen, and
Interesting.
this is why
Okay.
I'm couching it. I'm couching it very hard before I start. I do want to know what is going on with the jumper. Like,
Okay.
what's what's going on? You know, it's not. I'm listen. All first team. You know, all NBA first team. All that stuff. I think that I think there's very little to say that he won't have yet another great season. Heck, if the jumper is consistent this year, that could be the thing that pushes him over the top. That could be the thing that's like, hey, look at this guy. Maybe he's an MVP candidate. Yada yada. All that stuff. It's just what's going on, man? Like the whole playoffs
Okay.
and then the whole
Yeah.
Olympics. Like, okay, all right.
So
I'm a little. I want to know.
So this is going to be the question, right? This is going to be one of the questions that will be asked on media day, right? Like, I think that's going to be one of the things. And he has acknowledged it in his travels. Yeah. I know I've heard him talk about the jumper and being like, yeah, I know I've had that big slump and all of that stuff. He did shoot 37.6% from three, which is better now for that. That's for the regular season.
Yes.
That was better than the year before and the year before that. And is of his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. This is his fourth best season. So it's middle of the pack. He's had 3 worse seasons. He's had 3 better seasons.
And we should also note that post All-Star, he was over 40%. Right. So it also isn't like the entire second half of the season he was slumping. That's not the case either. It was the playoffs and the Olympics.
Playoffs.
So
28.3% in the playoffs.
That's not good.
And the previous year, 32.3% in the playoffs. 2 straight seasons of playoff performance where the 3-pointer wasn't quite falling. So fair enough, right? It's fair enough. And you wonder, I wonder if there's hey, those past 2 seasons are when he's really been asked to do a lot different in the playoffs, right? He's not been asked to be his usual self. And I think he's done that job really, really well. Yeah. And I think, especially in the playoffs, the championship run, I think he's better than people gave him credit for. Because he did, the percentages were down across the board. No doubt about it. His effective field goal percentage was 48%, which is just god awful. But his assist percentage, highest of his career, of his playoff career. His rebounding percentage was 3rd best in his career in the playoffs. This is playoff. His overall playoff performance, underrated, sneaky. I think because of the way people reacted, it's underrated now. But to your point, that's not where you need it to be, and it's the 2 most recent things that we've seen. So
for sure.
I do wonder where that's gonna go. It could go like, all right, refocus. Maybe there's a kink in the shot somewhere where you're like, oh, okay, we just gotta fix the hand placement or where the ball comes up or wherever. But I get it.
And I also will say too, I think it's like the other question I have is a little bit like, okay, it means, is there like a wear and tear factor here? Like, is that, you get to the end of the season, 2 seasons in a row, you're not making your threes. It's like, well, okay, is there like, is something going on there? And like he is a high usage player and a high, just like a high volume player. Like he plays a lot of basketball. And then you look at his off season, it's like, he played even more basketball than usual during the postseason. And then he had the Olympics after that. And, again, the Olympics jumper, a million factors could have been part of that. Obviously, we've talked about that ad nauseum, but it's, I don't know if it's a wear and tear thing, that's not something that is necessarily going to get better as the season goes on, barring a lot of rest or something like that he hasn't done in the past. So, Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, this is not like, oh, I think Jayson Tatum's going to become a worse basketball player. And this is why I couched it very hard at the beginning. It's just like, there's some things there that I kind of want to see that I minor concerns about some form of regression, especially from like a wear and tear perspective.
So let me take a second. I have a point to make about his role before we move into my regression, because I think that might also play a part in all of this. That's coming up in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook is America's #1 sportsbook. They've been offering you a little something different here for the past couple of weeks, and you still have a week and a half or so to claim this deal. Now through September 22nd, if you're new to FanDuel or you've been around FanDuel, you can bet $5. You get 3 weeks free, a free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. If you've got a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. So if you want to throw a couple of bucks down, Seattle at New England, a lot of you are New England Patriots fans. Seattle comes into New England as 3.5-point favorites. Whatever side you want there, you get $5 you throw down there and you get your free trial. And if that's not enough, check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all of Sunday, September 15th, pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting Thursday night, so it's live as of right now. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com and go download America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA. Make that your second listen. Rotating hosts. I host Wednesday with Jake Madison. Go check it out, and we got the whole league covered. It's a lot of fun over there at Locked On NBA. Make it your second listen wherever you listen to podcasts. Watch the show on YouTube. So, Tom, I think Jayson Tatum as a primary ball handler, which he's been a lot more, an initiator of the offense, I think that might play a role. I hope there's more opportunity, and I've been saying this for a while. I just hope there's more opportunity for him to get some catch and shoot, which might mean Jaylen Brown. If Jaylen Brown can handle a little bit more of the playmaking, which I know he wants to do. Like, yeah. Jaylen would love to handle the ball at the top of the key, but if he's able to handle the ball at the top of the key, initiate the offense, and you can get some Jayson Tatum catch and shoots, maybe just some of that will help him get a little bit more comfortable. I think it's more he's taking a bunch of pull-up jumpers, and those are just harder. It's harder for anybody. Those just lower percentage shots. And he's doing it early in the game. And I think for the past 2 seasons, he's been trying to find his shot. I've said this a million times on the podcast. He tries to find his shot first instead of getting comfortable into the flow of the game and then just taking a natural step up, pull up 3-pointer. I have no problem with pull up 3-pointers. I think you can do that in rhythm and be fine, but it shouldn't be the first shot you take necessarily. And I know Joe Mazzulla probably just disagree with me because, like, hey, whatever shot's there, the best shot is the best shot, and you better be you're in the NBA, you should be able to hit a pull-up jumper if that's your first shot of the game. But I just know that getting into the flow, I just would like to see a little more catch and shoot first. I think that might address. So maybe I disagree a little bit that it's a regression. I think it's more a comfort thing with him.
I think that's
but if
valid.
you want to talk shooting regression,
yeah,
I'm going to throw 2 candidates out there and save my third person for the third segment. I think these 2 are obvious. The 2 biggest shooting question marks I have are Jrue Holiday and Al Horford. I think those guys have the potential to maybe take a little step back. If I'm looking at regression for this upcoming season, Holiday has been pretty good. 43% from this past season. His fourth straight shooting season, better than 38%. But prior to that, he had 5 seasons in a row where he couldn't even get to 35.5%. So which end of it is it really for Holiday? And the bigger thing for me is last season, his total points were split almost 50-50 between 3-pointers and 2-pointers plus free throws. The prior season, his last season in Milwaukee, it was a third 3-pointers and 2/3 2-pointers plus free throws. So because of the new team, the new role, the new teammates, all that stuff, he's gone, and Missoula ball, he's basically 50-50 3-pointers and your 2-pointers, drives, free throws, all that stuff. If the 3-pointer goes away, that means he's not going to make up for it somewhere else. And it means the spacing starts to go away if he's not able to make those 3-pointers.
It does. On the other hand, the spacing that he is given should still be in place, right? Like, he's like a part of the reason I think that, you look at his ridiculous corner 3-point shooting. I mean, like, that was so high in part because, he was having a really good season, and there could be some regression there, but it was also in part because, like, the starting lineup that he was a part of was just death for everybody that was trying to go up against it. So I think, I think there could be some regression there just naturally, where it's like, yeah, you shot like 60% from the corners. Like, that's absurd. But at the same time, like, those shots should still be available for him. So as long as he still feels comfortable taking open 3-pointers, you would hope that at least it wouldn't be like a massive step back, right? Like, you would hope that it would still,
right,
that it wouldn't be back to his, sub 35.5%.
And I don't think, like, I'm going to be clear, I don't think regression is coming for these guys. But I would not be surprised if something like, and you're right. It starts with, I don't know. It's a little chicken and egg thing with Tatum and Jaylen drawing the defense and kicking it out, but also the spacing that those guys provide.
Yeah,
gives Tatum and Brown the lane. So what allows them to drive and collapse the defense? Is it because they have the space? Because if you can take an extra step off of Holiday, then that's a lane that's not quite there. If you're Tatum or Brown and you're looking like, ooh, jab step, this guy's just, I don't think I can get past these guys. I've got to do something else, which might lead to a jumper or just swinging the ball rather than collapsing the defense and trying to attack it from a different way. So, but I agree that I think the part of the reason why Holiday was so good from 3 this past year is his role and the teammates he played with. So I'm less concerned about regression from him. I'm more concerned about regression from Al Horford. And that's the most obvious one, because not only do you have Kristaps Porzingis out for a couple of months, for the rest of the 2024 portion of the schedule, probably the backups, unless Xavier Tillman or Luke Cornett can find a way to stretch their games back out to the 3-point line. He's the only stretch big. And we're talking about this in a conference where your 3 main, your 3 biggest opponents, New York, Philly, and Milwaukee, all have drop bigs that need to be pulled away. So if Horford's shooting, because he's 38 and at some point it will go away, if Horford's shooting takes a dip and teams just dare him to shoot and he can't make them pay, that changes a big part of the equation, because now Brook Lopez and Joel Embiid and Mitchell Robinson are all just there hanging around the rim, and Tatum and Brown and those guys aren't going to get to the rim, which makes it very, very difficult. I'll get your response to the Al Horford potential regression coming up in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. I know BetterHelp is a good option to help you get started on therapy, because I know therapy works. I know it works for me, and I think it can work for everybody. And because BetterHelp is entirely online, it's convenient, it's flexible, it's suited to your schedule. So no trying to find whoever is around your neighborhood or around your office, no carving out time to drive somewhere and hope that you click. You just go to betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. You fill out a brief questionnaire. They match you with a licensed therapist. So when you come home, you can just have somebody there that you can talk to. And if it doesn't click, no problem. You switch, no extra charge. You can do it until you find somebody that you do mesh with. And once that happens, I'm telling you, the benefits start to show. That's what worked for me. Maybe it can work for you. BetterHelp.com/lockedonnba. Go there today. You get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. HELP.com/lockedonnba. All right. So I laid out the potential for Al Horford, and I think the most important guy on the team as far as his shooting, if he takes a step back, that could be a big problem. Tom, where are you on this?
No, for sure. And I think Horford is like the obvious one, right? Like that's the one that you're when you talk regression,
the
it's like
biggest one, right?
You're like, oh, that's that one. And I think the biggest, like, not only is it the most likely one, it could be very, very costly, especially early in the season. For all the reasons that you laid out. Like that's the one that scares you a little bit because, like you said,
Yeah.
if Biggs can drop back, if Horford isn't stretching them out, all of a sudden the Celtics have a million options still. Like they still have a lot of guys who can hurt you. There's no question about that. But that like kind of I don't want to say like undefeatable, but like that equation that just nobody could solve, right? And that propelled the Celtics to the NBA championship last year, right? That you just kind of rode that offense that there wasn't really an answer for. All of a sudden there starts to be something of an answer for it. And now you start having to come up with other counters. And now things just get a little more complicated and a little more clogged and everything else. And I think, like we talked earlier this summer about how crucial it is to just get to the playoffs, like just get there as healthy as you can possibly be. And like, I think that's going to that might have to be kind of a mantra early on if the Celtics, especially if Horford regresses, it's going to have to be that like, listen, breathe. Kristaps Porzingis is going to come back eventually. If he makes threes, then a lot of this stuff clears up. But I mean, Horford's the one where you look at it and you're just like, that one, not only is it plausible, it's also concerning.
Yeah, it might. And that the trickle down effect is maybe Jayson Tatum has to play more five. Like that's something that I keep bringing up here or there, but
which then trickles into the concern about the, about the wear and tear.
Exactly. And it's not something you want to do a whole lot of. I think Tatum at the 5 can be effective, but what we've seen of Tatum at the 5 has been spotty. So I can sit there and say, theoretically, I think it can happen, but also in practice, I haven't seen enough where I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely go to this. But they might not have much choice. So that I think is a concern. Do you have another person that hasn't been mentioned yet?
The guys that I had were the three that we've gone over. I mean, I think, there's guys where it's you're kind of interested, right? It's like, okay, can Sam Hauser he had some effective defensive moments last year. He had some, like, are people going to be able to kind of figure that out a little bit? You wonder, like, okay, like, same thing with Luke Cornett. Like, are people a little bit more prepared for, like the Celtics backup big now that he's been, on national TV? The whole playoff run, that type of thing. But those, I think, especially Horford, especially, Holiday, and then my small qualms about Tatum. I think those are the big ones for me headed into the season.
I'll throw one more name out there. Just not expected regression, but based on like, wow, 2 amazing seasons. Can he really keep this up? Is Derrick White.
Don't do it. And I was afraid you were going to do Derrick White.
I know. not because I think, he's due for regression. Just because I think like the past 2 seasons, Derrick White have been so damn good, like so good that I'm like, can he really keep that? Can he do it a third season? And I do think the answer is mostly yes, because he's, he's playing in the wake of everybody else. He's such a good decision maker. It's not like he's having outlier seasons. His shooting is better than we expected, but it's not so like he's not having such outlier seasons that you look at it and you go, oh, well, he has to regress. But there's also been his 2 best seasons of his life.
That's
and
true.
You just wonder, like, is there like some of the shots that he just keeps hitting every big shot? Is he going to like miss some of that? Is he going to come back down to earth at all? And I think it's, if there is a regression, it's because of other people's regression. I don't think he is going to regress himself, but if Holiday takes a step back, or if Horford takes a step back, I think the biggest impact might be on Derrick White.
I could see that. I think it is. I mean, look, it's kind of fair to wonder if the guy who has not made an all-star team and was like a borderline all-star last year, it's like, it's fair to wonder, could he maybe not continue to progress in a directly upward motion? On the other hand, like I think we've seen how healthy he's managed to stay since and I think, a big part of the I think one of the things that makes him feel kind of bulletproof from a regression standpoint is that when the Celtics acquired him, there was so much chatter about like, I think his jumper is going to be fixed here. I think his jumper is going to be fixed here. And then it was, and it just makes the Celtics look like, oh yeah, they were onto something. You know what I mean? Like, so you kind of assume like, yeah, he's going to be fine. This is all going to be fine. So, I mean, I hear your case. I think it's reasonable. I think it's worth wondering about him. And, I'm going to go the complete opposite direction and say I think Derrick White makes his first All-Star team this year, and you're wrong, sir.
To be clear, I don't expect it. But it's just been, it's been so relentlessly positive around here. You know what I mean? It's been so upbeat. And I don't want to crush the vibes, right? I do not want, especially it's a Friday. But reality, life tells you like, okay, just
for sure.
Gird your loins. Just be prepared that as much as I still think the Celtics will repeat, like I do think as of right now, and I got to see them play before I really make that determination. But as of right now, I look at the NBA and I'm like, I still think they're better than Philly and New York and Milwaukee. I still think they're better than any team out West. They're a more complete team. I think all of the stuff that people think about them winning a championship, I agree that they are the absolute favorites and by a fair margin to win the championship. I'm just being real. I'm just being like, I understand that life and reality hits when you don't expect it. And we just got to look at these possibilities and wonder if any of this stuff happens, what do the Celtics do? Like start thinking about like, if Holiday does slip at all, if Horford does slip at all, what do they do? How do they fix this? How do they adjust? And is it guys playing different roles? Is it hoping some guys step up? Does it make it more likely that they keep Lonnie Walker or cut Lonnie? Like, I don't know where it goes, but I just feel like, and it's, it's the middle of September and there's nothing going on. So there's something to talk about as well. And I did write about this on Boston Sports Journal. So people can go check out what I wrote and all of that. But I do think it's a fair conversation to have and wonder like, okay, is it going to be 100% positive, or should we like be like, all right, maybe a couple of things might not go our way?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, life happens. I think, and I mean, look, that's going to be the thing that makes the season interesting, right? It's like, okay, like if one of the Celtics guards, does regress or does, like even, if there's an injury or something like that, then okay, this is another opportunity for Peyton Pritchard, who has had opportunities in the past, but then this one would be a more interesting one to me, right? Like I think,
Yeah.
and that's where things start to, yeah, like you said, Lonnie Walker, like guys who are intriguing and who, kind of, I don't know, what can you do? What can you bring to the table? Like those are going to be interesting conversations, and I think, I do think expecting the Celtics season wasn't perfect last year by any means, right? Porzingis was out for most, like their big acquisition was out for most of the playoffs. Like that kind of disqualifies it from being like a charmed season, sort of in that way. But the Celtics did have a machine that ran very, very smoothly, and they never really got sand in that machine. Even with Porzingis
Right.
out,
Right.
the threes were still falling, and the whole plan kept working. So it's like at some point machines break a little bit, and that's more what you're kind of like. You can't always predict
Right.
which gear is going to fall out of place, but a gear will probably fall out of place this year, and you got to kind of
Right.
be prepared for that. That said, to my earlier point about my former podcast, this team will not have Tristan Thompson or Ennis Freedom on it, so I do think they're going to be just fine.
We say thank you, Tom Westerholm. Appreciate you as always.
Appreciate you, man.
And I always appreciate you, the listener, the watcher, the person who is here with me every day. Now back to Monday through Friday, starting on Monday. So thank you for getting through this kind of low point of the offseason. September is a drag, right? September is tough, but we got through most of it, and now we're going to get through it. There's the Celtics Media Day is coming up in less than 2 weeks, I think. Yeah. So we're ramping back up. So subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Get onto that YouTube page. Let me know what you're thinking. Get into that comment section. Join your fellow Celtics fans in there. Have this conversation with us. And then I would love it if you shared the podcast and told everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.